Amidst the ongoing trade wars happening around the world, China has a particular problem. If you hear today's topic, you might think the same as I did. Like, huh? Is that really a problem? The issue is that China has too much money. Specifically, they have an excess of money from trade surpluses. Or in other words, they're making too much profit from global trade. Just in the first half of the year, China was already able to achieve a significant trade surplus. $434.9 billion. But most of that money comes from profits made off the United States and Europe, which leads to the problem of, hey, there's just too much money. See, when you hear this, do you feel the same way? Like, is this news just telling us they have too much money, or are they bragging? Like, are they about to shut it down? I'm tired of hearing it. It's kind of annoying. Wait, don't go yet. Don't you want to know why having too much money in dollars and euros is actually a problem for China? Stick around and listen with Money Motor. Thank you so much to everyone for following the Money Monster channel. Our subscribers have now surpassed 60,000. And wow! Honestly, I've been working on this channel since it was just a tiny little thing, and now it's grown this much, all thanks to everyone who has supported and helped out. If anyone is interested in supporting the Psy Money Monster channel, you can do so using this QR code right here. Just scan it and boom! You can just take a screenshot and scan the QR code to support the Psy Money Monster channel. Or if that's not convenient for you, just hitting like, sharing, subscribing, or leaving a comment already makes me super happy. Thank you so much. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the proceeds go to supporting the Psy Money Monster team, helping us make better quality videos, tell better stories, and keep us motivated to keep creating. Even more importantly, it allows me to access more and deeper information to share with you all, making it easier for everyone to understand finance. So you'll be part of supporting a channel that explains things in a way that is both educational and fun. Thank you. So when people say that having too much money in China is a problem, how exactly is it a problem? Other countries' economies are struggling, but China is making huge profits from selling goods. And yet people are saying that having too much money is a problem. It's a problem because right now there's a trade war. The profits China is making come from selling goods to America and Europe. So the money they're earning is in US dollars and euros. And the amount is as much as $434.9 billion. Some people might ask, why not just exchange it? No one can just walk into an exchange and swap $400 billion. Normally, China would take the profits it made from the US and use them to buy US government bonds, or sometimes bonds from EU countries, so that trade can flow smoothly. Plus, they'd earn interest that way. But now, that's no longer possible. China has been dumping US government bonds rapidly, right? And there's also news that NATO is considering seizing Chinese assets in Europe. So now China doesn't know if holding government bonds from two Western countries might get their assets seized at any moment. That's why they're not doing it anymore. The important thing is there's already a precedent. Russia's $300 billion that was frozen, now 1.5 billion euros of that has already been carved out and officially sent to Ukraine for use. So China is like, they're panicking. Like, hey, if they can do this to Russia, they could do it to China too. So China has decided not to touch government bonds from either Europe or the US anymore. And they're not interested in investing with the West at all through these channels. They're afraid their money might get seized. Like I said, the surplus funds they have are more than $400 billion. So you can't just take $400 billion. If you convert that to Thai baht, about 14 trillion baht, walk into an exchange and exchange it for something else. It just can't be done. So now China has to figure out what to do with this massive accumulation of excess capital, especially since it's in a currency they don't want to invest in government bonds with anymore. What can they do with it to maximize their strategic advantage? Let's keep watching. So with all of this surplus money, let's see what specific steps China is going to take next. If you look at it, it's kind of like a chessboard, where China is figuring out where to place its pieces to minimize risk and maximize benefits. So China decided to take this money and invest it in Europe again. But the country China chose is Hungary. China made a deal to invest as much as 1 billion euros in Hungary, and Hungary didn't hesitate at all to accept China's money. They've already decided to turn their back on the European Union because money is the answer to Hungary's economic problems. They need the money because their people need to eat, live, and have a better quality of life. And money is the only answer that can help Hungary's economy grow. Hungary didn't say this directly, but I uncovered significant evidence that one of the reasons Hungary decided to accept Chinese money and turn its back on the EU is because there was an unfortunate situation exactly like this with the EU before. The EU once froze a sum of money called the Cohesion Fund, which is money the EU is supposed to provide to Hungary to be spent on the economy and to substantially improve the overall quality of life for its people. This is money that is essential and extremely important for Hungary, a total of 22 billion euros. There was a time, on December 2nd, 2022, when the EU withheld this sum and refused to pay Hungary, basically using this 22 billion euros as collateral. Even though this money is very important to Hungary, the EU chose to keep it as leverage to make Hungary comply with the EU's agreements before releasing the funds. Hungary was angry because at that time, the money was extremely important to Hungary, and suddenly the EU chose to play with the hunger of the Hungarian people by using the money as a bargaining chip. So if we realize that the European Union has a weakness, meaning there's someone in the EU named Hungary who's dissatisfied with the EU, China also saw this weakness. That's why China chose to build a relationship with Hungary and provided funding to Hungary. China offered many things, not just investment money, but also raw materials, whether it's oil or rare minerals. Or they provide cheap raw materials, like low-cost products from China, which helps Hungary avoid inflation, right? And China also offers money to help build infrastructure in Hungary, like building better roads, motorways, and expressways. Because these good trade routes that China helps to build, China sees that it can use them as routes to transport Chinese goods into Hungary for trade. And they can also export to the rest of Europe. This is basically a way to use up surplus money, currencies that China doesn't really want, by investing in Hungary this time. China actually gains a lot from this, and it's pretty impressive. First, they get to offload currencies they don't want to use into areas where they can create value. Second, they can create divisions within the EU region, because Hungary will have to turn its back on the EU in order to receive Chinese money. Third, China gets to do business and build alliances with Hungary. And fourth, by establishing a good trade relationship and friendship with Hungary, China can also maintain an important supply chain route. This way, China can continue to send goods into and through Europe. All of this creates a win-win situation. China benefits, and Hungary gets to build up its own economy. So Hungary can strengthen its economy. That's why Hungary didn't hesitate to open its arms and welcome Chinese investment. Going back a bit to point 4 that I mentioned, about China investing in Hungary as a way to keep its supply chain strong, this supply chain is actually a route that allows access into Europe, right? When we talk about the supply chain, what's really important here is the root of the supply chain itself. Anyone who can control their own supply chain is significantly more difficult to attack. So building infrastructure for a strong supply chain, this is an absolutely critical component that has allowed China to gain such significant global trade dominance in the world. If you're interested in seeing the infrastructure of China's supply chain, I've actually thoroughly explored and covered it in this video, China's maritime superpower. Because if China didn't build this infrastructure to set up its supply chain like this, then even if China is the factory of the world, even if China can produce a lot, produce cheaply, or produce with great quality, if China can't establish routes to deliver goods, meaning getting products out of its own factories efficiently to reach customers, then it would all be pointless. Being the world's factory wouldn't make any money anyway. That's why the supply chain is such a crucial part of China's trade power, and why it doesn't fall under the shadow of other powers in terms of trade. All right, let's keep going and see what China does with the profits it earns from trade. If they're not investing it in the US or Europe, what else can China do with that money? Because, for example, investing in Hungary is just about 1 billion euros, right? There's still a lot left over. So China chooses to invest in countries that are key trade hubs. If you look at the map, these are countries with choke points or straits where cargo ships pass through to reach the rest of the world. Let's take a look. So where exactly does China invest? For example, South Korea has up to 119 shipping connectivity points, which attracts a lot of Chinese investment, up to $1.2 billion. Next is Singapore, which has 116 shipping connectivity points. That's why China invests in Singapore as well, because it's a major maritime hub connecting to the rest of the world, and it receives a significant amount of Chinese money. $2.6 billion. If you look at this chart, you'll see that Thailand is included as well. The reason China invests in the ports of these countries is to ensure that when China manufactures goods and wants to trade with the world, if they can ship their products through the ports they've invested in, it's like having a first-class guarantee that they'll be able to export their goods globally. Now, let's take a quick look at the United States, shall we? China no longer wishes to be a creditor at this point in time. They don't want to provide financial loans to the United States through U.S. government bonds. So what exactly is going to happen to America? Let's take a look at the U.S. debt clock first. The debt clock is still running fast and strong. It's speeding up. If China stops buying, maybe nothing will really happen, because there are still plenty of individual investors out there who want to buy U.S. government bonds. After all, the interest rates, or bond yields, are pretty high right now. More importantly, let's take a quick look at the U.S. economy. Even though we saw that in Q2, the recently announced GDP increased, it went up by as much as 80 basis points. If the U.S. economy wasn't doing well, how could the GDP possibly go up like that? More importantly, let's keep looking. People are still able to buy things, there's still demand in the country, and the government is still spending, still putting money into the economy. That's why the GDP has gone up. But if you ask where this GDP growth is coming from, where does the government get the money to spend? It comes from running a budget deficit. The government is spending more than it takes in. The deficit has now reached as much as 5.6% of GDP. And as you can see, it's this deficit spending that doubled the GDP in the last quarter. Running a deficit budget means the government has to borrow even more money. To put it simply, it's like running a shop and having to borrow 20,000 baht to invest in various things, just to make sales of only 10,000 baht. That's basically the current state of the economy. That's exactly what the US government is doing. They have to run a deficit budget, borrowing money to double the GDP and make the numbers look good. And if the government keeps increasing deficit spending, it means they'll have to borrow even more. The more they borrow, the harder it is to bring inflation down. So the US's target of getting inflation down to 2%, well, that's gonna be tough. It's almost impossible. But if you ask whether the US should stick to its policy of reaching the 2% inflation target or keep borrowing money to spend, they'll definitely choose to borrow more money. Because Janet Yellen said that inflation isn't really a factor causing economic problems. It's not inefficient, not problematic, not tech-related. So if the US keeps running its economy this way, with deficit spending and a huge need to borrow, losing even one major creditor is definitely not a happy situation. Not just a little, because honestly, it's not just China that doesn't want to buy US government bonds anymore. In this clip, I already mentioned that Saudi Arabia also wants to dump US government bonds. Or take Japan, for example. Right now, they're trying to maintain the value of their own currency, and to do that, they're also selling off US dollars. So from here on out, as this situation unfolds, we'll have to wait and see, because this is a historic moment. It's like a new chapter in history waiting to be written between the United States and China. The US has already declared a trade war on China, right? So we have to watch and see, because in the future, whether it's near or far, we don't know if something will actually happen. But let's suppose that a real war breaks out between these two countries. It would really put to the test whether the United States, which has the highest military budget in the world, more than the next 10 countries combined, you can see this in the video about America's global dominance, and invests massively in its military, armed forces, and weaponry with the most impressive arsenal in the world and military bases all over the globe. Versus China, which has chosen to invest in infrastructure, trade, and supply chains, like the One Belt One Road initiative, and to secure strategic maritime routes around the world. You can see more about this in the video China Maritime Superpower. Between these two nations, the United States is pro-war, while China is pro-trade. If they have to face off, who will the world choose to win? Go to bed.